Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Empower Sounds podcast. My name is Mahika, and on today's episode, we are joined by the wonderful Jaya, CEO and founder of Svaha USA. We're going to talk all about Jaya's journey into launching her successful clothing brand for adults and children, all about the STEAM subjects. Now, you might be wondering what is the STEAM subjects, and we're going to be diving into all of these topics and Jaya's entrepreneurial journey really shortly. I hope that you learn, I hope that you laugh, and I hope that you enjoy. Let me know what you think on the podcast Instagram and in the comments, and stay tuned. Amazing. Welcome, Jaya, to the podcast. Can you please start by introducing yourself?
My name is Jaya. I live in Washington, D.C. area. I'm the founder and CEO of Svaha USA, an online clothing retail store that sells STEAM-themed clothing. That's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And I have been doing this for about 10 years.
Wow. Okay, let's dive into it. Can you please tell us what is Svaha and why did you start it?
Swaha is basically just an online clothing store, and we sell kids' clothing, adults' clothing, and clothing for the whole family. And I started this in 2015. My daughter was 2.5 years old. She loved everything space themed. At that same time, my son was into fighter jets and all fighter planes, and he wanted to be a fighter pilot. So I used to always buy him t-shirts that had fighter jets on them. And at that time, my daughter saw his clothing and said, wait, why is he wearing fighter jet clothes and why am I not wearing space themed clothing? So I was like, okay, no worries. I'm going to buy them for you. So I go online and go to different stores to look for it, and I couldn't find anything. I bought her a boy's t-shirt, but as a mother, that was not okay for me at all because I said, what message am I sending for my daughter that if she wants to be an astronaut, she has to be a boy, and only boys can do that. Uh, because my background is in clothing, I said maybe I can do something about this. And I just thought about all the things, all the professions that are typically considered to be for men. And I said, okay, what if a girl wants to be a baseball player? What if a girl wants to be a firefighter? A dump truck driver, construction worker, any of those things. I made t-shirts with those designs. And I started a Kickstarter campaign because I had no idea whether this would be successful or not. With Kickstarter, you don't have to invest too much. So I started it off at that, and it was a huge success. And that's what started that was the birth of my company.
It sounds so amazing. I have so many questions, but I want to start more about your background in fashion. So, can you please share a little bit about your journey from studying fashion in India to launching Swaha in the US? What was all the dots that like connected looking back, and how did you get here?
Yeah. Uh, I was interested in clothing because I think it's in my genes. My grandparents actually taught sewing in India. They actually had they started a sewing school. But because of that, I was always interested in clothing. I used to make my dolls clothes when I was little. So I went to college in India to study textiles and clothing, which is what the course there was called. So I did my master's over there, and I worked in the apparel industry for 4 years. I worked in production, manufacturing. I worked in a retail chain. And after that, I decided that I wanted to study further, and that's what made me move to the US. I moved to University of Georgia, which is where I did my master's, and then I did my PhD at Iowa State University. I did my PhD because while I was studying, I got a teaching assistantship. So I was teaching undergraduate classes, and I absolutely fell in love with teaching. So I said, if I do my PhD, then I can actually go into academia. And then I actually taught at a university for 5 years. I used to teach fashion buying and fashion math. Uh, and then after that, when I had my kids, somehow it didn't seem like the right career path for me because I wanted to have a little bit of flexibility to be with my kids and spend time with them. So I decided I was going to join the industry because I said at least I can take time off whenever I want. And so I started working at a company company called Think Geek, and I was the apparel buyer there. Think Geek was this super cult following. It had, very geeky clothing. And I grew their whole clothing department, and it was an amazing experience for me to actually understand the American consumer in a very different way. And right after that, when my kids were very little, I decided I was going to take a break. And I was home for about 7 or 8 months, which is when this whole story of my daughter's sudden interest in being an astronaut came about. Uh, Probably because we live very close to the Air and Space Museum, and I used to take my kids to that museum a lot. And that's yeah, so that's basically been my background.
That's amazing. And it's really cool how all of them link into each other really nicely. And it shows how you've got this amazing path of continuity. For all of those listening who want to start their own idea, what advice would you give to them? Because yes, you had like the foundations from your studies and from your job and stuff, but you were starting from scratch in terms of entrepreneurship. So, and you ran an extremely successful Kickstart campaign. So, what advice would you have to those who have a problem that they want to solve or an idea that they want to work on or business they want to start?
Yeah. Uh, See, I think the biggest fear people have is that, oh, how much of my investment and time it's going to require. What I did and the way I did it is somebody could actually do that with a full-time job without really taking a risk of quitting your job and starting something that you don't know if it's going to be successful or not. So what I did was, I think the most important thing is having an idea that you believe other people would be excited about. Because obviously, if it's your idea, you're going to be excited about it. But it's important to figure out whether other people also think that that idea is as cool as you think it is. For me, my biggest way of testing that was the Kickstarter campaign. And we are lucky that we have platforms like that. Kickstarter is not the only platform. There are many such platforms, and you can be in any part of the world to do this. It's not an American thing or it's not a European thing. You can do Kickstarter campaigns from anywhere. Uh, and for me, my only investment was I made 5 t-shirt samples, which was so easy for me to make. You can go to any printer and get those samples made. It's only if you get orders, then you actually have to produce them. Until then, you can just, and Kickstarter is a great way for you to actually figure out if other people like it. Because if your campaign is successful, because you can only get so many of your friends to go and back you on a Kickstarter campaign. At some point, you have to have strangers backing you. And that's when you know that it's going to be a success. And that's when it is a success, you know that you're not the only one feeling that this product will do well in the market. So it's a great way to try something without having to invest. And even if you have product idea, it's not difficult at all these days to get a prototype of a product made. There are so many people able to do that very easily. So all you need is a great idea and then a test to figure out whether other people think it's a great idea too. And that's the start of a business.
That's awesome. And so once you got that amazing result from your campaign, your initial campaign, what steps did you take to kind of turn it into more of a concrete business with running operations and growing it? So how did it go from phase one to kind of a little bit further down the line?
Yeah. So I think when our Kickstarter was a success, so it takes us some time to get the money even from the Kickstarter campaign because we didn't, I still at this point did not want to invest any of my money on it. So the next thing was to find a factory. Now, luckily, I do know people in India, so it was that could have been my path, but surprisingly, that was not the path I found because most of the factories that I worked with when I was in India were all really large factories. They wanted me to order 5,000 pieces of one t-shirt. And my Kickstarter campaign, I only had more like 200 pieces or 150 pieces. So I couldn't really get a factory that would want to work with me like that. So I found a LinkedIn group called Apparel Manufacturers Group. And I just went in there and I said, listen, I'm a new company just starting off. I'm looking for a small factory to grow big with me. And I want to have someone who will make small quantities for me and we can grow together. And surprisingly, there was this one factory that reached out to me saying, I'm just starting off, so I want to help you. Let's do this together. So I said, sure, let's give it a try. So I had him send me some samples. The samples were great. And so I went ahead and placed my first order with him. And I told him, I can pay you only after I get my Kickstarter money. And he was okay taking that chance. And 10 years later, I'm still working with him. So it's been amazing. He actually is finally now buying his own factory. He has his own building, and he's saying, I'm able to do everything because of you." And feel the same about that factory, because if he wouldn't have taken a chance on me, I wouldn't have been where I am today. On this production side, that was it. And then on my business side of it, of course, I had a website that I had already built before Kickstarter, so I could get the traffic coming to me. And so it was a very simple on Shopify. Anybody can build a website. You don't need to have any IT experience or anything. It's just a drag and drop kind of platform. And things have gotten so much simpler now with all of that. So we set that up. I had lots of people that I knew who could help me if I needed any help. So I used all of the help that I could possibly get. And then I slowly, every few months, I started launching a new line. And I did that for about a year. But then I realized that so many of my customers started saying that, hey, I want to wear, an adult, but I have loved dinosaurs all my life, and I want to wear a dress that has dinosaurs on it. Or a teacher reached out to me saying that I want to wear a chemistry experiment dress. So 1 year into starting my company, actually a little less than a year, I launched a second Kickstarter, this time with adult clothing, because I said, okay, there are few people who have reached out to me, but how many adults would want to wear clothes like this? So I created a line that I called the Steam Angels. So, like the Charlie's Angels. So I made a science, technology, engineering, art, and math, like 5 dresses, and I launched the Kickstarter campaign. Believe it or not, within 2 days, it was funded.
Wow.
And it went almost double of what I wanted them to, start with. So I didn't realize that adults wanted this way more than kids. So and that was, it made a huge impact on my business.
That's so interesting. And I want to talk a little bit about your decision to target adults and children rather than focus on only genders, because you have dresses on your line and all different sorts of garments which are more traditionally worn by specific genders, but fostering this culture of breaking stereotypes. Can you talk us through your decision to make it as open and inclusive to everyone as possible?
Yeah. Uh, yes, we do not mention any gender on our website, if you have noticed, because for me, my whole goal on starting this website and this business, was to shatter the gender stereotypes. And for me, I said that if I'm going for shattering gender stereotypes why is it only for girls? Why not boys? Like boys can be interested in things that are considered girly. Um, and why not, right? So I actually have some customers who buy dresses for their boys because their boys love to wear dresses. I have had men who buy our dresses because they love to wear dresses. And so I feel like if I'm going into this, I need to go all the way in, right? Like I'm not going to judge you because you want to wear something or not want because you like something. And I just feel that that's how the world should be. You should be free to choose a career you want. You should be free to dress the way you want. And so that's always been my agenda. And that's what I have focused on the website too. And it's pretty obvious that I try really not to stereotype in any way at all.
That's really powerful. And I love that we've spoken about how well received that's been, that ethos. But I'm sure that you face many challenges in bringing this new concept into the clothing market and just speaking about breaking stereotypes. Like the whole point of needing to break a stereotype is that the stereotype is there in the first place. So can you please talk us through some of the challenges that you faced bringing in this concept, and all of its kind of additions in the last 10 years?
Yeah, so it's not just even the stereotype, but the fact that I call my collection as a STEAM collection, I get so much backlash for it. They say there is nothing called STEAM, it's only STEM. And I say, no, art is a part of, education. Art is a part of everything in terms of there is no science without art. There's no math without art, because you have to have so much knowledge about art to be able to draw a structural diagram while constructing a building, for example. You don't even think about all the possible ways that, science is taught by drawing, diagrams, which is in my way, it's art, isn't it? But a lot of people don't think of it like that. So I just always say that there is no STEM without art. So that's why we call our collection a STEAM collection. So that's like one of the things I have to constantly explain to people. Other than that, uh, thankfully, we live in a day and age where people are accepting the fact that there should not be any stereotypical professions like for based on gender. And so that has actually been very well accepted. I have really not come across anyone saying that, oh, science is only, whatever, but, engineering is only for boys or girls shouldn't be doing that. In fact, I have always had people reach up to me or talk, like send me emails, messages saying that, thank you so much. You have actually changed the conversation among people. A girl who's wearing a science dress will have more people coming and talking to her about science instead of if she was wearing a princess dress and people asking who's your favorite Disney princess, which seems to be the conversation you're supposed to have with little girls. So I really focus on the fact that our clothing, the designs on our clothing change conversations, and I'm just happy it's doing it in a really big way.
That's so beautiful. And speaking of changing conversations, 2% of women get funding for their entrepreneurial ventures in the UK. I'm sure the statistic is in parity or of somewhat measure in the US. So, although you took a slightly different approach with your funding for your business and use a Kickstart campaign, I'm sure that it was difficult for you to be an entrepreneur as a woman, to work in manufacturing. Like you said, you had a really good relationship with your factory, but I'm sure at some point there was different challenges. So can you talk about the challenges that you faced as a female founder and how you overcame them as well?
I have heard this because I'm actually a part of a group called Female Founders Association, where there are a lot of women who are looking for funding. And I have heard stories of uh, many, many different extremely uncomfortable experiences that people have had with me because investors are mainly men. So, just the fact that, oh, what if you decide to go on maternity leave, then what happens to the company? Or what happens if you decide to get married and you decide this is not the business for you? How should I invest in you? I have heard stories like that. But fortunately for me, because I never had the path, chose the path where I was actually looking for funding, I have had no such experience. The 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 only experience that I can actually talk about is when if I have a shipment that comes into the airport where I have to go to the cargo hold to pick up my shipment. And I have gone, like, when my shipments were very small, where I used to get 20 boxes, 30 boxes in the beginning. So when I used to go to pick up my shipment, the only people around me were truck drivers, and they looked nothing like me. So when I went in there, and everybody would be like, "Okay, so where's your driver?" And I would be the driver, and they'd be like, "Okay, who's going to lift the boxes?" And I would say, "I'm going to lift the boxes." My boxes are not that heavy. I mean, they're heavy, but I can lift them. I'm strong. And so that was the only place where I would always have people questioning my ability to do something. But other than that, it's been, surprisingly smooth sailing for me. But I think it's mainly because I have really not depended on anyone. I have done it all on my own, and I have um, luckily enough, Kickstarter is a way that you can get the money, and then I have reinvested that money back into my business, and it's taken off from there. I've really never needed any investment or have made my own investment either. my investment has been my time because I did not pay myself for the first few years.
Wow. And I love that you just said, like, I'm strong. You know, like you stopped your train of thought to say, I'm strong. And that is like a testament to your entrepreneurial journey as well. So, how did you foster that sense of mental strength and resilience throughout? Because I'm sure that it was still hard at times to do everything, like you said, you did the whole thing. So, how did you keep that sense of like faith in yourself that you are strong and that everything will keep going well, and also just this notion of resilience and consistency, because that takes time to grow something into a huge company in the way that you have done.
Yes, that is definitely not easy. There have been many times where I have questioned myself whether should I continue this or should I give up? This was not my first business venture, by the way. I tried a couple of other things before and I failed miserably. And I just always wanted to do something on my own. And there really hasn't been, this is not like in my family, like we are not business people. I come from a family where everybody just works for someone else. But I think for me, the biggest incentive in having my own business was my flexibility to spend time with my kids. I think if not for that, I probably would have been working for someone else. But I so desperately wanted to be there for my kids and have a job that would only make me work while they were in school, got me into this field. So I know that sounds strange, but that was my motivation for having my own business. About the business itself, yes, it was not easy at all because we went through a lot of I went through a lot of personal issues and work related issues and COVID and everything during this whole process of running my business. My 1.5 years into starting the business, my son got really seriously ill, and I had to handle that. And there was so many times that I thought about should I continue this or not. But you know um, I feel like this business has is something that I love so deeply, so immensely, and I enjoy the work so much that that is what keeps me going. There's no day when I wake up in the morning and I feel that, oh no, my God, I have to start this again. No, I absolutely love it, and I'm super, super passionate about it. I think that is what keeps me going. I, as any business, there are problems. Every day there's a new problem, but I look at it as, like how gamers look at it, like what's coming next, my way, and how am I going to beat that and move on? I always had this. When I was when I was much younger, I used to have this saying on my desk that said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." So I feel like this business has taught me to be an amazing problem solver. There's nothing that can get me down. And I just do it. I started off from the basement of my house, uh, outgrew that, rented a warehouse space for almost 7 years, outgrew that, and finally bought my own warehouse, which again, when you buy any property, it comes with a host of other problems, employee problems and website problems, customer issues, production issues, everything. I have gone through every one of those. But I think the fact that I'm running this business because first thing, I love it. Second thing, it gives me flexibility to be with my children. And the third thing, I feel like I don't talk about it enough, but through this business, I'm able to give back to the world a lot. And that is a huge thing that makes a difference to me. Every year we donate for childhood cancer research. Every year, this year we even donated to breast cancer research. We are donating to Spina bifida. We donate to like every time if there is a possibility to create a design where we can donate in even in a small way, make a difference to an organization. I mean, my company is not that big where I'm able to donate in millions, but even if it's in a few hundreds, I do it, and I love it that through my business I can make a difference. And I think that makes me feel, and I think I look at it as I'm doing it for my selfish reasons because it makes me happy. And in turn, if it helps someone, great.
Wow. That is so incredibly impactful and amazing. And it's so wonderful to hear your passion. Like I can hear it in your voice, I can see it in your face as I'm speaking to you. My next question for you is about your role as a mother as well as a founder, because a lot of the discourse around female founders, especially mothers who are female founders, is how they balance their time and how you have to choose between one and the other and sacrifices. But what I love so much about your story is how you talk about how they complement one another and how your desire to be present in your children's life is what made you a founder and is what gave you strength to continue going through it. So, can you please tell us a little bit more about how you manage being Jaya CEO and also Jaya mom?
Yeah, I get, I understand where a lot of this thoughts of how can you be a full-time mother and a full-time because there's no part-time mother. It's only a full-time mother, right? You're on call all the time. My phone is like almost stuck to me because I'm like, what if I get a phone call from the school saying that they need me to come because my son fell down and hurt himself, which has already, it happens all so often. So the thing is that I feel that when I have multiple responsibilities, like when I know that, oh, I have to take my son somewhere and I have to take my daughter somewhere, I am even more efficient in everything that I do because I know that I only have so much time and everything has to get done because if I don't do it, then who will? Right? So I think the efficiency is the most important thing. And there are so many different ways to do that. Everybody has their own style. For me, I write down my list of all the things that have to done that should be done and what can be moved to the next day, right? So I make those kind of lists and I make sure that I check off all the things that have to be done on that day, things that cannot be moved. And that's basically how I do it. For me, it's important that I wake up in the morning and I drop my kids to school because it's not that I cannot find someone to do that. I like to do that because the conversations I have with them in the car are the most precious conversations for me. I do not want to miss out on them. So I drop them, I come back, I start my day, I start my work, and I work as much as I can until I have to go pick them up. And I also do that. I drive about 100 miles a day in dropping, picking, taking them to activities, which is kind of a lot for someone, but my kids are further away from home, so it takes me longer. But I feel like I can do so much more when I know that I only have so many hours and I don't waste any of my time. Yes, I don't also go and socialize much, which is my choice. I don't go out for lunches with friends. I don't go out for anything else. I do that only when it's a family get together. So that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because it's the choice I'm making. I'm like, once my kids are in college, I can go and have a more better social life and more active social life. Um, but I think that when you know that you have less time, you can get more efficient, and with efficient use of your time, you can get what might take someone 8 hours to do, I can do it in four if I when I know that I only have 4 hours. And I think that that is how I have been able to balance being an entrepreneur, being a full-time mom too. And like I have been there is I don't feel like, oh, I wish I had more time. I could have also done more. No, I'm doing everything that I can in the amount of time I have. Sometimes I have to work after they come back from school when they are busy doing their homework. I'm still working. I'm working on weekends, but it's a choice I have made because it's my business. And when you have your own business, there are no weekends.
Wow. And speaking of balance, because you spoke quite a lot about how you manage to balance being a founder and a mum, how do you maintain balance so that you don't burn out and you pour time into self-care as well? Because you have to have time for yourself and for your health and just taking care of your mental well-being as well. So, do you have any practices that you put in place just to make sure that you can sustain the pace that you go at with your
Yeah.
work and everything?
Yeah, of course. So I do look after myself in the sense I'm a member of a gym where I go to work out regularly. I have a class that I go to twice a week, and rest of the times, as soon as I drop my kids and I come home, I do not start my work until I have worked out for some time. So I always keep that time for myself. And then the other thing about being an entrepreneur is that flexibility with your time. We go on regular vacations with the whole family, and that's like something that I'm passionate about because when I travel, I feel like I get my best ideas for my work. So if you go to a museum, I'm always taking all kinds of photographs to see how can I convert this into a design. But for me, that's like a mental break in that sense that I get a break from my routine, but I also come back completely refreshed and rejuvenated with the, you know, bursting with ideas of what else I can do for work. So yeah, I do those things. And I do go out for walks. My usual interaction, like of going out with my friends is I go out for walks with them. So for me, it's like I get my exercise and I get to talk to them while I'm walking. So that's usually what I end up doing.
That's nice. And it's nice that you've managed to incorporate like socializing and mental well-being and all those things. You mentioned earlier that you don't do the regular lunches and stuff in the way that maybe other people would. Did you find that lonely? And like, because people also say that entrepreneurship can be quite lonely. And how did you find navigating staying on your own path and not having kind of FOMO for what other people do and the kind of schedule that other people might have to be able to pour more into socializing or more into other things that are not maybe the highest priority to you, but are seen as kind of conventional things to do?
Yes, I mean, of course, when I see a lot of other people hanging out and, being able to find the time to go out, I sometimes wonder, oh, maybe I want to do that too. But I always look at it as there's always going to be time for that in your life. But once your kids are grown up and they're out of your house, that time is not going to come back. Yes, the loneliness part of it, I get it because there are a lot of times when I feel like, oh, I haven't spoken to an adult today because my only interaction has been with my kids. But then in that case, I do have friends that I can call and I can go and meet. I mean, my staff, I have like a team of 10 people. So I go to my office and because I usually do end up working from home, I feel like I am more efficient when I'm at home and not distracted by everything that's happening. Because like for example, I just walked into my office earlier today and while I was there, I saw, oh my God, the orders have piled up. So I quickly went and tried to help pull orders to ship. And then I quickly went in and say, are the photographs ready for the website? And I just get so distracted because I'm trying to help everybody and then I don't end up doing my work. So, but it's a great way for me to just go meet people, say hello, tell them I'm here, all of that because it's my business. I like to kind of keep an eye on it that way. But yes, I mean, I try to see if to meet people, but I feel like I end up doing a lot more of that when I travel because we travel to places sometimes where we have friends and then we go meet them, hang out with them. I go to India every year and I have a lot of family and friends over there and I go hang out with people. So I feel like I do it in a shorter amount of time, do all of that, and then when I come back, I'm okay with just focusing on my work, my family, and my kids, like my family life.
That's amazing. And we've talked all about how your business has given you the opportunity to be flexible, to give to charity, which is so amazing, and has taught you so much and given you the opportunity to use your creativity and solve problems. Can you tell us a little bit more about Svaha's big wins? So I have so many cool things like written down about your collaboration with the former NASA astronaut Karen, is it Nyberg?
Yes.
Nyberg. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, I used to have a PR person whose main role was to try and do collaborations with people because I feel like you reach so many more people because, whoever you collaborate with, it has so many other followers who probably haven't heard about you. So those kind of collaborations have really helped us. And I think that collaborating with women who have made an impact or made a difference in the world, it makes a huge it almost like it's what my brand stands for, right? To focus on women who have made a difference in this world, to inspire the younger children who want to be like that. So that was something that was like really amazing because when Karen was in the International Space Station, she wanted to do something for her son, who she had left behind on Earth. And so her son loved dinosaurs, and so she took some waste material from astronauts' lunchbox coverings, and she quilted a dinosaur for her son. And so she said that she always thought about, and she had this beautiful picture of the dinosaur floating in International Space Station. And so that inspired me to create the design based on her time in space. And it was very well received. People loved the design, and it was a great story for everyone, and for little kids to be inspired by her story. So yeah,
Wow.
it was an amazing experience, and we have done a few collaborations, but maybe not somebody as popular as her. There's a woman who's a marine scientist, and she studies unique marine creatures. So she had actually we collaborated with her. There was another woman who was a biomedical engineer, but she creates equipment that is used in surgeries in medicine, and so we had collaborated with her to create a dress that was based on biomedical engineering. So I try to do these things because I feel like when I can tell a story about this person along with the dress designed in collaboration, it inspires so many people. That okay, she's a woman, but look how far she has reached based on just because of all her hard work and her interest in the subject.
Wow. Amazing. Well, as we're wrapping up, do you have any advice that you want to give to any young women who are listening? Not just people who want to start their own business, but people who want to do something that is paving their own path and creating something new for themselves, whether that be going into a field that is not the most welcoming towards women, or like I said, being a female founder, or just doing something a little bit unconventional and breaking boundaries. What advice do you have to all the young girls, women listening?
So the only thing I would say is that the only limitation is in your head. If there is something that you want to do, nothing in this world can stop you, as long as you go at it with your full dedication and your full all the effort that you can put towards it, be it starting a business, be it choosing a career. Even if nobody else has done it before you, that doesn't mean you cannot be the first one. So I just tell everyone that have a dream, just dare to dream, and uh, don't let anything stop you.
That is such powerful and amazing advice. I'm gonna link all of your website down below and everything that I find related to Svaha, but where can the listeners find you?
Yeah, so my website is svahausa.com, and we are on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere else as Svaha USA.
Perfect. I will link everything below. I always love to end this podcast with the theme of gratitude because I think it is really, really important to always maintain that. So, can you please just tell us what you're most grateful for today?
I think I'm the most grateful for being born in a family where even I was born in the 70s, and even at that time, my father and my mother never once made me feel that because I was a girl, I had to be a certain way. And I think that at a young age, having that instilled in my head has made me the person I am today. So I'm always, always grateful for that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight. You really, really are an empowering and inspiring woman.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the podcast Instagram or in the comments, and I will see you next week.